Hi, I'm a fat little Asian man, and this is South Korea. While most K content out there shows you celebrities in Seoul, food in Seoul, cafes in Seoul, celebrities eating food in cafes in Seoul, there's a lot more to the country out there. For example, you've got mountains, more mountains, rocky mountains, tall mountains, and even more mountains. Other than being 70% mountains, the country is actually split into 9 provinces. Most people know Korea as this one country that was split into two only recently, but there were many periods when multiple kingdoms competed to the death inside this tiny ass peninsula. So, the unified Joseon dynasty made 8 provinces with shared culture and geography, which the provinces today are based on. When naming these provinces, there was definitely more efficiency than creativity involved. Seoul, the capital, literally just means capital city. What's the area around the capital city called? It's called area around the capital. All the other provinces are just named after their 2 biggest cities too. For example, this area has Gwangju City and Sangju City, so it's called Gyeongsangdo, Do meaning province. Later on, they split some of the provinces in half for administrative efficiency. For example, Gyeongsangdo is split into North Gyeongsang and South Gyeongsang, kind of like the country itself today. South Korea's land has 8 out of the original 13 provinces, with Jeju Island becoming its own province later on. Korea also has 8 major cities, big city areas classified as their own thing. Okay, so basically, South Korea has 9 provinces and 8 major cities. Let's begin. Seoul City is the capital of South Korea, but it's also South Korea itself. Unlike most countries that have separate financial, political, or cultural capitals, Seoul is South Korea's everything capital. Everything from the political, financial, judicial, and tourist centers are all in Seoul. All the content you watch like K-pop, K-dramas, and K-Netflix shows are all designed in Seoul's digital media city area as well. Naturally, because everything is in Seoul, it means all the companies and jobs are also here. So if you want a goddamn job in this country, you have no choice but to come to Seoul. It's why 10 million people are crammed into this single city. All the population in turn makes Seoul's rent extremely high, which is why most Koreans' entire life goals are to just own a single apartment here. Seoul is also where you can feel Korea's unique cyberpunk dystopia vibe. It's filled with tall, flashy skyscrapers, beautifully decorated historical sites, and bustling shopping malls that all feel like an attempt to hide Korea's ongoing mental health issues, disappearing population, and massive inequality problems that have been here for decades. It's why the easiest way to identify a Seoulite is to look for the classic expressionless capitalist, even the people holding baby strollers with their white fluffy dogs inside. The common Seoulite is known for being a bit calculative and stingy, which is why my grandpa would call them 깍쟁이s, referring to their more robot-like nature. This isn't because they're unfriendly, it's actually because they've been working on an average of 10 hours a day. Don't worry, most Koreans become a Seoul 깍쟁이, as it is our destiny to study 12 hours a day for 15 plus years to get into universities in Seoul so we can maximize chaebol shareholder value. Seoul wasn't always the capital, it was mostly farms for most of its history. The gigantic Han River that flows through here made it an important water and food source, so much so that kingdoms in Korea have historically fought for its control for centuries. It was only until the unified Joseon dynasty's King Taejo that Seoul became the capital. Gyeonggido is the area around the capital place, which unironically explains Gyeonggido's entire existence. Everything about Gyeonggido is designed to support the capital city it surrounds. Gyeonggido is full of apartments, acting as a big dormitory for 13 million people. For someone who isn't a nepo baby or a boomer, if you want to live in Seoul, your choice is to either pay $700 a month for a one-room apartment or around $1 million to live in a normal size apartment. This creates the unique problem of all the jobs are in Seoul, but you can't fucking live here with the housing prices. For these people, your option is to live in Gyeonggido with a much more affordable pricing. Of course, in exchange for living 20% of your life on the subway alone. That's why the easiest way to identify a Gyeonggidomin is by finding the dead-eyed commuter on the subway. Especially if they complain like, "You Soulites have it so easy." If you live here, the long commute times and the non-toxic work culture of Korea makes the scenario of living a life with 10 hours of work plus 5 hours round-trip commute not a fantasy but a reality. In response to these problems, the government has consistently built massive planned cities all over Gyeonggido. These cities are famous for having only one single unique trait each. For example, one's a tech city, one's a Samsung city, one's a city of tight clothes? Yeah, I don't understand that one. Gyeonggido also acts as a kind of military barrier to Seoul as well. Even though the fancy iced vanilla lattes and salt butter rolls might distract you, there's a roided up nuclear anger issue hovering just a few kilometers above. It's why outer parts of Gyeonggido are mostly comprised of military bases and surrounding farms, with the inner cities designed as strategic land barriers in the case of a North Korean invasion. Incheon City is Korea's international city, meaning it has an airport and a Chinatown. Historically, it was mostly a trading port until the Japanese colonial period when it was forcibly opened. As a treaty port, the Japanese heavily expanded its logistics networks in Incheon. Ever since, its proximity to Seoul has given it the job of a port city, with additions like the Songdo International Business District. The rest of Incheon is known for being just weird. Koreans call this place Mage, which means demon realm in Korean. It started off as a stereotype because of its televised crime rate, big hooligan problem, and illegal influx of Chinese organized crime groups. Now it's more of a meme that describes the bizarre nature of Incheon itself. For starters, time and space seem to work differently here. Incheon has the 1.5-hour rule, where it takes 1.5 hours to get anywhere in Korea. Incheon to Seoul, Incheon to Gyeonggido, Incheon to Busan, and Jeju, all 1.5 hours. Of course, we have to look at Bupyeong Station, aka the underground dungeon, known for its underground labyrinth of shops and stalls filled with weird streamers that go around rage baiting for attention. While stereotypes against the high Chinese Korean population still exists, it's become a very safe place today. Now, most Koreans go to visit Chinatown and enjoy the extremely tasty Chinese Korean food like jjajangmyeon that originates here. Chungcheongdo is a strange void in the middle of South Korea. In a country full of fast-paced, impatient, and efficient people, the people of Chungcheong are famous for being stereotypically chill. This is reflected in their slow dialect and very indirect way of answering. Normally, this would sound extremely annoying, but the people here are known for their love of humor, making them also likable as well. For example, at a restaurant, if a Chungcheongdo person found some hair in their food, they would say something like, is this extra service? Or if the cashier asks receipt, instead of saying no, they would say, sorry, too heavy for me. The biggest form of disrespect you can hear in Chungcheongdo is 애는 착해, which roughly means they mean well. This indirect attitude is said to have originated from the Three Kingdoms period. Chungcheongdo, being close to the Han River, meant each kingdom took turns conquering the region. During this time, it was dangerous to identify which kingdom you are from, as it might get you killed, later cementing into Chungcheongdo's unique indirect style. Chungcheongdo is also split into North and South Chungcheong. North Chungcheong has both the cities that the provinces are named after, Chungju, which is famous for their funny government workers, and Cheongju, which is famous for their F&B industries. South Chungcheong is pretty similar, but they have some beaches where you can go and throw mud. There's also the infamous Nonsan Korea Army Training Center filled with the newly shaven heads of young Korean men in the first chapter of their worst nightmare. Daejeon City means big field in Korean, and like the name suggests, it has just been a pretty big field for most of history. Its importance changed when the Japanese built the Gyeongbu Line, the first railway in Korea. Although the railway was built to extract resources to Japan quickly, Daejeon was placed in the center of the line and grew along with the railway. Due to its central location and easy access to other areas, the government designated Daejeon as a center for science and technology, which is why it's home to not only the governmental complex, but also the laboratories of Korea's top companies and Korea's best science institutions. But this place isn't really known as a science city. It's known for being boring. As it was mostly a field for centuries, there is nothing to do here except eat bread. Daejeon is aptly called 노잼도시, which means no fun city. It's not like Daejeon tried, they pushed their whole science image with this cute alien mascot, but it just wasn't enough. Let me introduce the Daejeoners' 5 stages of grief. Stage 1, denial. People start by denying that their city has no content. Stage 2, bargaining. Most people start looking at a lost cause, like if only the Hanwha Eagles baseball team can win this season. Stage 3, anger. In this phase, people get angry at other cities comparing their content to Daejeon. Stage 4, depression. Symptoms here include being unusually quiet if asked what to do in Daejeon. Stage 5, acceptance. In the last stage, Daejeoners finally accept that going to a bakery called Seongsimdang is more than enough to do in Daejeon. Sejong City is the newest major city in Korea, built to purely act as an administrative capital. All of it centers around this place, the government complex Sejong, the Disney World of Korean bureaucracy, filled with your favorite Korean departments. It was created as a way to lessen the Seoul-centered state of South Korea, and of course to move the capital outside of Kim Jong-un's artillery range. The people of Sejong are mostly government workers. They were kind of shipped here, so nobody in Korea really cares about Sejong, even the people who live there. I've been to Sejong quite a few times, and it's clean, modern, and big. The problem is, because it's a heavily planned city, it feels like you're walking around in a Sims world, especially with the neighborhoods looking like the same templates were used, packed full of franchise brands on every block. Jeollado is Korea's food province. Due to its lack of mountains, access to rivers, and with the biggest plains in Korea, it's the center of Korean agriculture. This, and access to seafood, made the food here really good. The banchan, or side dish culture, is said to be popularized here, as some Jeollado restaurants still consider it shameful if you can still see the table. Also, due to its warm humid climate, the food here is heavily seasoned, making it very sweet and salty, like many of the popular Korean dishes today. Maybe because their food is so good, the people of Jeolla are known to be extroverted and very expressive, which is shown in their dialect. Instead of the very monotone speech of Seoul, the Jeolla dialect is known for having a lot of pitches and accents. Historically, Jeollado is also the center of Baekje. Baekje used the rich agricultural resources to develop its culture, build interesting tombs, and trade cool swords with Japan. The province of Jeolla is split into North Jeolla and South Jeolla. Both are mostly farms with sweet potatoes, cheese, chicken and watermelon in the north, with rice and pears in the south. The main city of North Jeolla is famous for having one of the most beautiful hanok villages in Korea, alongside some nice bibimbap, while South Jeolla is famous for that one beach in the song all Koreans sing in Norep. Gwangju City is the liberal capital of South Korea. You'd expect the place with the highest Christian population, surrounded by farms, to be mega conservative. But no, it's 80% liberal. Not liberal as in LGBT parades or pro-immigration, but democracy. Even though overshadowed by its crazy brother, South Korea has had its fair share of dictatorships. There were 4 major democracy movements that turned Korea into a democracy today. While the residents of Gwangju played an active role in 3 of them, it became the center for the most tragic one. In late 1979, Korea's second dictator, Park Chung-hee, was assassinated, and the country was in a democratic transition. Until, of course, there was another coup from Korea's third dictator, Jeon Do-hwan. Jeon enacted martial law as soon as people protested against his regime. On May 18th, the people of Gwangju protested against Jeon's martial law till the end, but the civilians were no match for the armored tanks and artillery that massacred 800 men, women, and children. Ever since, Gwangju has sided with the Democratic Party, with President Kim Dae-jung known for his Nobel Peace Prize growing up here. Other than being liberal, Gwangju is also famous for their style of kimchi, which is why the National Kimchi Museum is here. It's also famous for their bulgogi, the marinated meats you find in K-BBQ. Gyeongsangdo is the historic home of Sinla, the kingdom to unify the 3 kingdoms period. This place is culturally significant, especially because of Gyeongju, Sinla's 1,000-year-old capital, where you can see all the Buddhist temples and Korean architecture that weren't destroyed by the Mongols. The region is also pretty rich because it's the factory of South Korea. President Park Chung-hee invested heavily in the area, building multiple industrial coastal complexes that led the export-based economy Park pushed. It's why the region is pretty rich from workers and chaebol conglomerate factories. Entire cities are based on industries alone, like Pohang, known for its steelworking factories, or Goje, known for its shipbuilding factories. Like the image of factory laborers and steelworkers, the people here are tough, quick to temper, and macho, even the women. It's reflected in their dialect, which is strong and low-pitched, but have distinct accents that make them sound a bit angry, but also charismatic. Gyeongsang people aren't expressive at all, which is why men and women here don't call each other by their names because they're too embarrassed. All that macho-ness, but they're still caring and really loyal on the inside. Ulsan and Dokdo, both islands on the East Sea, are also part of Gyeongsangdo as well. Sorry Japan, Dokdo has and will always be Korean. Busan City is Korea's second biggest city. It's a massive port city based around logistics, handling 300 million tons of cargo annually, which is why it has its non-Seoul financial district. The stereotype of Busan is the Busan driver, loud, shouting in a strong Gyeongsang dialect, always escalating conflicts with their reckless driving. Of course, the traffic in Busan is terrible and the sound of honking is ever present here. So if you're planning on looking at the nice beaches and scenery here, bring some headphones. The origins of Busan's macho-ness is probably because Busan had to fend off Japanese pirates for most of its history. The toughness also shows as Busan was also Korea's last stand during the Korean War, the only ones not taken by North Korea. Busan's most famous food is its gukbap, a pork-based stew, sometimes with intestines. Busan didn't invent the dish, but Busaners love to constantly tell everyone their version is the best. It may look weird, but nobody has tried it just once. Ulsan City is just a city-sized factory. Most Koreans call this place Hyundai City, as Hyundai Factory 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all here. It's so Hyundai, even the city's football team is called Ulsan Hyundai FC. If you say you're from Ulsan, most Korean grandpas will ask if your dad works in Hyundai. But the city is so much more than just the Hyundai factory. There's other factories here too. Like Daejeon, it hasn't been so historically important, so Ulsan is also a no-fun city as well, probably because it has a thick middle class mostly full of male factory workers. But also like Daejeon, it's pretty good to live there. Daegu City is Korea's textile factory, but it's more famous as Korea's conservative capital, with the history of Korea's first democracy movement starting here. As they're on separate ends of politics, Daegu is not on the best of terms with Gwangju. Their hatred is not based on culture or race, it's purely political. It's long and complicated, so I'm just gonna go over it quickly. The base of Korea's economic miracle began during these two dictators, Park and Chun. This guy was smart, and this guy was lucky. But it was unequal because development was mostly in Seoul and Gyeongsangdo. Jeollado and Chungcheong were comparatively poor and underdeveloped, which is where the conflict begins. It was still kind of a rivalry until Chun killed a bunch of people in Gwangju, then played victim saying the Gwangju movement was a North Korean revolt. All downhill from here. Daegu is where Park and Chun grew up, so of course they have been easy targets as well. Daegu calls Gwangju communists because liberals equals commie, it's a thing in Korea too, and Gwangju calls Daegu Japanese sellouts because they're only in power due to their pro-Japan colonialist ancestors. Both labels are factually wrong of course, and nowadays it's become a bit of a meme instead. Aside from all the drama, Daegu is also known as Teprika because it's a valley area surrounded by mountains that keeps the heat inside. The city even boasts that you can fry eggs on the heat too. Maybe due to the heat, there weren't many people in Daegu historically until the railway was built here. Daegu is famous for their roasted makchang and mungtigi, which both may look disgusting, but they taste really good. Gangwondo is the mountain province of Korea. Even though it's the second biggest province, it's not split into north or south because 82% of it is the massive Taebaek mountain range. The rest of the land is mostly either military bases or potato farms. This contrast between the bases and farms are Gangwondo's unique identity. Like this, a military sniper with a grandma who just doesn't care. Young men in military uniform and elderly farmers in bus stations. Fresh and tasty food from the farms in the sea versus the packaged instant food in the military. Lots of snow that makes this place look like a winter wonderland. And of course, there's soldiers shoveling it up all day. Gangwondo is a place for nature. The beaches are very clear and beautiful, and the mountains here have great trekking and hiking areas. There's a lot of military exercises here, so you can sometimes see tanks driving across the road as well. Jejudo is the island province down south. Historically, it was an independent kingdom called Tamla before being conquered by Joseon. Due to its long periods of isolation, everything from the dialect, region, and culture are all distinct from the rest of Korea. It's why Jeju people call other Koreans land people. The island was made by Mount Hanla's eruption, Korea's second tallest mountain. All the volcanic rock lying around meant minerals for tangerines and the special breed of black pigs. Women divers called haenyos are also unique to the island. Men would often die at sea trying to fish for food, so women would often have to dive down to gather food themselves. Haenyeo seafood is peak, by the way. Today, Jeju is mostly a tourist destination to enjoy the beautiful volcanic mountains and caves, unique rock fences, and the clear sea. That's it. That's all of Korea. May have sneaked in a couple history lessons here and there, but surprisingly a lot of content for such a small country, right? I've narrowed down a lot, so please tell me if I've missed anything in the comments. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I make these videos by myself and I don't use AI, which you can probably tell from how my video looks and sounds different from AI channels. Thank you so much for watching. Here's some other content that you may like.